Wait, before we get into this episode, we want to let you all know that we're going on tour! Whoa! Halloween tour!
Woo! Let's try not to die. Woo! Yeah! We're going on tour.
We're
so
celebrating
excited.
almost a full year of Creepcast coming along, and we thought, what better way to do it than a nice, spooky Halloween tour? Now, friends, there's only 4 dates available. We're going October 24th in Boston, Massachusetts at the Regent Theater, October 28th in New Orleans, Louisiana at the Le Petit Theater, October 30th in Phoenix, Arizona at the Tempe Improv, and October 31st, Halloween Day in Los Angeles, California at the Fine Arts Theater. Yeah.
For some reason, you guys like this show of me and Hunter being absolutely ridiculous while reading much better stories, but for whatever reason, you all like it, so why don't you come out and watch us do it live, where we'll not only harass each other, but we'll get to harass you all, which will be a bunch of fun. And if you're lucky, you can make Hunter cry.
You can make me cry. You want to make me cry in person?
If you want to, then there's never been a better time. That is right, a Halloween tour. Availability isn't huge. We're trying to do sort of a smaller show, see how people like it, see how it goes. Maybe there'll be bigger ones in the future, but for now, you better get in while you can, because once those tickets are filled up, they are gone forever. So if you want to be a part of the first Creepcast Halloween special tour, get in now while you can. And thank you all so much for the support. The fact that this little podcast show of ours that we started out for funsies is now to this level is incredible. And you all are fantastic, and really, it means a lot. Thank you.
It's a fun way
That's everything I said. Hunter said that you all are pathetic and need to pay out money and start, quote, earning your keep. But I appreciate you all.
It's a fun way to come celebrate the show, a nice full year here. And also, it's a great way to just come and hang out and read some spooky stories. And also, if you can't make it, it's all good. We will be recording these. If you want to come hang out for a bit, feel free. Or if not, catch it on the video. But without further ado, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to Creepcast. Today, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Wendigoon. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great today. Today I'm more Oompaville because I'm actually hanging out at Oompaville's property right now, which hints the setup, hints the very high detailed camera that is so big and right in my face. I like being small in my normal setup. This is imposing. But yes, I'm doing great. I'm doing great other than that.
Well, you suggested a story called Feed the Pig today, which we got to throw it out there. We got to immediately throw it out there. It is by the author of Tommy Taffy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Taffy, not a bad story. Not a bad author.
It's not.
We're here to set the record straight. We're here to give this man the light and stage that he deserves. And I did not know about this till this morning. So if it is bad and gruesome, it is Isaiah's fault, not mine.
Okay, all right. To be clear, I'm pretty sure I told you. I think we even mentioned it back during the Tommy Taffy episode. Hey, I think this is the guy that did Feed the Pig. And so it's not my fault when I've been suggesting Feed the Pig for the past couple weeks that you don't remember what I said.
I can't be held to my own memory. I can't be held to my own fruition. I am simply a man. All right.
Okay.
And all I know is when I see the title of a story like Feed the Pig, I get very excited because it makes you also think of the movie Hannibal, where Gary Oldman. I'm pretty sure Gary Oldman gets eaten by pigs. A lot of fun. Really like it.
Wait, I thought that was Red Dragon where he gets eaten by pigs.
It might have been Red Dragon. I thought it was Hannibal. Was it not Hannibal?
It might be Hannibal. I'm probably just dumb. Yeah. But yeah,
same.
I know what you're talking about. Same vibe.
Same deal, whatever. All I'm saying is I'm hoping, as always, I have not read this. I don't know what's about, but I'm hoping, and I want to hear what you are hopeful for. You've read this, haven't you?
Okay, so I remember listening to this. I can't remember when I heard this. No, it was high school. I listened to it and liked it, but see, like when we clicked on the video, when we clicked on the story, it gave us a not safe for work warning. I don't remember that in it. So I'm clearly forgetting some stuff. You also got to realize, like, I used to listen to creepypastas like on the way to school and back, like every day. So like there were so many stories that I thought I remembered everything from Feed the Pig, but I'm probably going to be surprised because I have no memory of something that would be not safe for work. So
I'm hopeful for people getting eaten, possibly possibly children getting eaten by pigs.
Right.
Families having to watch their children getting eaten by pigs. That's the kind of turmoil, emotional turmoil that I expect Elias Witherow?
Mm-hmm.
Witherow. Elias Witherow, the author, to give me. He set the bar very high for depravity and insanity.
Hey,
so
I love Tommy Taffy. I thought it was great.
Good story.
Yeah, it was a great story. It was very well written. As we talked about in the episode, I think it goes a little far with some of the descriptions that kind of take it out of horror and bring it into shock value and stuff like that. But it did not take away from the fact that it was very well written. It was very cool. And as I've said prior, grow up.
All right. I'm stoked. I'm ready. It isn't very often. Actually, to be fair, we've had a lot of episodes lately where very strong titles, and I like Feed the Pig.
Feed the Pig's
very
great.
Simple.
I'm kind of getting worried with the not safe for work thing, but that's the best part of these episodes, making you uncomfortable. So
that's the best part of our job, is that it is actually safe for work for us. This is actually our work. So it's perfect.
That's so true. This is our work. See, the not safe for work moniker, like I understand it just broadly means like, sexual adult themes, whatever. But it was always a funny title to me because I would always imagine someone like in an office cubicle, like reading every time Tommy Taffy, like
exactly
looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Some guy at like H&R Block, and a person walks in, they're like, "What are you reading?" He's like, "Oh my God, you caught me.
This is my uncle sent me this."
Yeah, a guy working at like a solar panel company, just being like, no. Screaming in the background of his
literally like when
floor.
he gets caught making the same excuses I make to the audience, like, well, you're adults, like this isn't nothing. Nothing
so
actually happened.
It's just blah, blah, blah. I thought I worked at a solar panel company, not a daycare. Right, guys? All right. Let's dive in this shit. Because also I see people, and you know what, actually I'm going to stretch out just a little bit longer, because I fucking hate is when people are like, the story starts here. You know what, bitch? We're going to throw it around to where I'm going to be like, it's going to be very hard and inconvenient for you to get that time code.
Watch this. I slowly opened first 3 words. So I've started the story, but we're not reading it right now.
Well, it could be. That could be it. I don't know.
Well, if I say I slowly open my eyes, that's the first sentence of the story.
That's the first sentence.
Words.
So good luck with that. So once again, there's your time.
Today's episode is sponsored by Factor. It's officially too hot to turn on your stove or heat up your oven. So eat stress-free this summer with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Everything is fresh and never frozen and ready for you to heat, eat, and enjoy. In just 2 minutes, you can have chef-crafted food from the comfort of your home. And every week, there is a menu of 35 options to choose from, including Calorie Smart, Keto Friendly, Protein Plus, or even vegan. Factor even has snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, small bites, and more to keep me going, no matter what's on my schedule. Looking for the gourmet side of life? Try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. My piss smells real good. During the summer, there's a lot to do, and you don't have time to worry about what's for dinner. So head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code Creepcast50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code Creepcast50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring the episode, and back to the episode.
We should probably actually start talking about this.
Yeah, well, we've pushed it about a minute and a half after the first sentence, so we've proven our point. All right, so feed the pig. Let's get into it. I slowly opened my eyes. My head was swimming, and a dull pain surrounded my throat. I was thirsty. That was the first thing I noticed. I licked my dry lips as my surroundings faded into focus. My body ached, and I realized it was because I was tightly bound to a metal chair in the middle of an empty room. The barren concrete walls were stained and dirty. The floor beneath my bare feet was cold and slightly wet. A single bulb lit the room, dangling from the ceiling by a string. It cast moving shadows, and I blinked back darkness. An open door stood before me, but I couldn't see anything but the wall of a hallway. I tried to clear my head, tried to remember how I got here. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced myself not to panic. I slowed my breathing and focused my thoughts, desperately trying to summon some recollection of why I was here. Couldn't remember anything. I opened my eyes and exhaled, my parched throat throbbing. I could hear sound echoing off the hallway walls outside the door, screaming, clanging, howling, all very distant, but that did nothing to help calm my nerves.
Hello?
I cried, the word tearing at my vocal cords. I felt my chest hitch in pain, and I cleared my throat and yelled again.
Is anyone there? Hello?
The dark hallway remained silent, except for the constant echoes. I shut my mouth, tried to wriggle free of my bindings, but the rope was knotted impossibly tight. I fought back against my imagination as it flooded my mind with horrific scenarios of what awaited me. I could only remember.
Kind of reminds me of the hostel kind of like rooms or something.
Yeah, like Saw.
Almost like weird
or
torture
something
chambers
like
or something like that. Some industrial kind of like place.
The note of what he said is interesting. He can hear screaming, clanging, and howling. That sounds like, I don't know what that sounds like, but it's not good. It sounds like some kind of machine.
I'm wondering the distance if it's just like, that kind of shit.
Yeah. Like people being like tore up by something.
Pigs.
Like, yeah, or like shoved through a machine or something. Because with clanging, you imagine like metal machinery, right? That's what I think of.
Well, I'm wondering if I pictured almost like chains on pipes or like somebody like handcuffed to that kind of thing. And then like, and they're like slapping around or something.
I don't know. We'll find out. Suddenly, footsteps erupted from outside the door. A rapid patter of small feet. My hopes rose, and I trained my attention on the door, praying it was help. A young boy ran into the room, dressed in a red onesie, complete with padded feet. Stretched over his face was a plastic devil mask. The eye holes revealed massive blue eyes that greeted me curiously. Taken back, I opened my mouth to speak. That's when I noticed something was off. Its eyes were huge, impossibly round and bulging from their sockets. It sent a shiver of unease down my spine, but I shook it off. This child might be able to free me.
Hey kid, can you get me out of here?
The boy took a step closer, cocking his head but remaining silent. Rattled my bound arms against the chair.
Cut me free, please. I shouldn't be here. This is some kind of mistake.
The boy eyed me behind his strange mask and stopped directly in front of me. He leaned in close and whispered, his voice like wet silk.
You did a bad thing.
Confused, I shook my head.
No, this is a mistake. I didn't do anything.
The boy's enormous blue eyes suddenly filled with sadness.
Oh, you did a really bad thing.
All right, so the story had me. I was there. I was in the room.
What?
I was imagining.
That sounds like the kid.
Blue-eyed devil
That sounds like a
mask.
kid with
And
big,
now I'm
sad,
imagining
goopy
that-
eyes.
I can't remember their name. That whatever character it was from South Park who sold the steroids to Jimmy for the Special Olympics.
Okay. All right. Well, that's you. That's your kind of interpretation of the voice I'm doing. I'm doing a young child with big, goopy blue eyes. Oh, you did a really, really bad thing. He's a kid.
No. This sounds like this is mocking. This is some level of deep down sarcasm. I'm not going to stop you. I just want it to be clarified to the audience that I'm not with him. I don't agree with this.
Okay, well, I can do it.
Look, I was
I'll
in
do
the
a different
story
voice.
too.
Now you're in my head.
Too late.
Now you're in my head. Here,
I'm
what's
just
a better?
saying if you want to
why don't
deliver
you?
a
Why
good
don't you
show,
give me an example?
If you want to
give
deliver
me an example
a
of
good
what
show for your audience, then maybe you can act like it. Is all I'm saying.
I thought it was a legitimate, good, creepy, weird thing. You're talking about a kid walking around in a red onesie with a devil mask on, right? Yeah. All right. So how do you think he should sound? Go ahead. Say, you did a really, really bad thing.
I'm not the voice actor, so I'm not the one to ask about this. I just read the stories.
You sure know how to give criticism as if you are.
You're
what about
right about that? That's for sure.
What about
You did a really, really bad thing.
If that's what you think our audience deserves, then you go with it.
No, I am a grown man trying to do a child's voice. You know what? I'm just gonna let it roll. It might be different every time. Who knows?
All right, well, like I said, if you think that's what the audience deserves, then that's on you. I'm just letting the audience know that I'm not in on it.
All right.
I shook my head again, violently.
No! I'm sorry! I don't remember! Just please get me out of this chair!
Suddenly, before either of us could speak again, a man came charging into the room. He was overweight and dressed in overalls. His grizzled face twisted in seething anger. He was holding a sawed-off shotgun in his arms.
I didn't do anything!
I cried as he advanced on us, my voice cracking.
I'm not supposed to be here!
The big man ignored me and instead grabbed the kid and shoved him hard against the wall. The boy grunted as his back struck the concrete and his eyes rose to meet the grizzled man's. Wordlessly, the man raised his shotgun, placed it against the boy's forehead, and blew his head off. I'm sorry, Hunter. Is something funny? Is there something you'd like to share with the class?
Oh God! I like how the guy just he's like, the kids like, they what a quick altercation! Just blew the child's head off with his sawed-off shotgun. Okay, sorry.
When you all get mad at me for picking stories that involve like Tommy Taffy-esque themes or Baraska themes or whatever, remember this is what I'm working with. Okay, this is what I have to keep happy. This is like
let me
what
tell
I have
you,
to shovel
that was
adult content into to get something out of. Just remember that.
Let me tell you that was unexpected. I expected the child to be more part of the story. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
What about a child being shot in the face is so funny to you?
It was just shocking. It was not expected. That's why I got such a visceral reaction out of me. I'm sorry.
Chunks of gore splattered the wall as shock sludged me in the stomach like an iron fist. My ears rang, and time seemed to slow as I watched in horror as the headless body crumpled to the ground. Is that also funny? Would you like to make a joke about that line?
Well, see, no. Now that I've let it sink in, now I can process this.
Okay, cool. My breath rushed back into my lungs, and time seemed to readjust.
Jesus fucking Christ!
I screamed, straining against the ropes, my eyes bulging in horrific shock.
What the fuck?
The man ignored my screams as he bent down and picked up the boy, slung the ruined corpse over his shoulder, and walked out the doorway. Suddenly, the hallway erupted with malicious laughter, a chorus of voices, all howling in glee. I shut my eyes, the noise deafening, as absolute terror filled my every pore. After a few moments, the laughter faded, and I cautiously opened my eyes, unable to believe what I had just witnessed. Okay, so for that scene, man in the overalls comes in, very reminiscent of kind of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type figure. Comes in, shoots the kid, walks outside. It says, as they go into the hallway, it erupts in laughter. And a chorus of voices all howling in glee. So there are like people outside waiting for the body of the child almost.
Yeah, I would assume that it almost makes it seem like it's pins or some people are able to actually see what's going on. I'm like, I don't know why, but I think that like,
in your mind's
I don't think
eye.
people are standing in the hallway. Yeah, in my mind's eye.
There you go.
I don't think people are standing in the hallway. I feel like people are looking from a room out to the hallway and they're just crazed maybe.
Oh, kind of like that's almost designed like prison cell blocks.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of picturing. The only thing that's weird is that I'm pretty sure our protagonist, I think his door is just totally open or there's no door at all, if I remember right.
There has to be a door. Right? Oh, no, he's chained to a chair or something.
He's chained to a chair, but I think I think the door is just open so he can see people just like coming in and like walking by and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think you're right. Okay.
Hello.
I jumped as I realized there was another man standing before me. He was dressed in a simple white button-down shirt and jeans. His brown hair was cut short and he appeared to be in his early 30s. His green eyes were dull, lifeless. His full lips pulled down to the corners.
What is going on? Where am I?
I cried, new fear pulling in my stomach like hot blood. The man crossed his arms.
So you're the new one, huh? You people disgust me.
Is that the kind of character you think our audience deserves?
I think that, you know what, at this point, yes. At this point, if my acting is going to be under scrutiny, then you all don't deserve me at my best. I believe I'm giving you gold.
So you're the new one, huh? You people disgust me.
So, as this show continues into the future, I want you all to remember that this is what he thinks of you, and compare that to how much I love you. Just remember
That's true. That's true. It's true.
Questions bubbled on my lips, but he waved them off with a sharp chop of his hand, slicing the air and demanding my silence. He ran his tongue over his teeth, sneering.
You look like you're already...
I feel like you should be Southern.
You look like you've already seen some of the horrors this place holds, huh? Yes, I can tell by the look in your eyes. You're terrified. You've seen something, haven't you? It doesn't seem all that bad now, does it? Looking back?
You've been here 5 minutes and already shitting your pants.
I like the
am I?
Mr. Weller's voice. It's pretty good for him.
I feel like at this point, I don't know why, big sweaty man, sawed off shy. I feel like he's a little Southern. What do you think? Do we like that
Now
or no?
this isn't the big guy.
No,
This
this
isn't
is
the one
the
who shot
guy,
the kid.
the white button up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
White
gonna say,
button, I think
he's more
Southern.
put together.
Yeah. That works.
Yeah. So, where am I?
I gasped, unable to hold back any longer.
What do you people want?
The man crossed his arms behind his back.
I bet you want to get out of here, don't you? I bet you'd like to go back to your home, your family, everything.
Please, what have I did to you? I'm sorry. I really am. But I don't remember.
The man rolled his eyes.
You didn't do anything to me. You did it to yourself. You really don't remember anything, huh?
Shook my head and felt tears brimming in my eyes. Liquid fear. The man looked at me with contempt.
You waited until your wife left for work and then you went out to the woodshed and hung yourself. You're dead.
Dun dun dun.
That's kind of an interesting hook.
I remember all this from the story because that's like the whole thing it's famous for online and stuff like that.
It's like, oh, you're actually dead.
Well, it's as if the story's a depiction of hell, basically.
I see.
Yeah.
How do you like that reveal? How do you like that?
Again, it's a little bit. I'd be more interested to hear your opinion because I went into reading today knowing it was about hell. How do you feel about it? As someone who thought this was like a saw trap thing.
I don't know.
You don't know? You don't know how you feel about it?
Disappointed, I guess.
You feel disappointed in it? You can be honest. You can talk. It's okay.
I don't know. I kind of just wanted it to be a weird torture thing.
You wanted it to be a weird torture thing? You know, it's sad that's not just a weird torture thing.
This guy's dead.
Yeah, that's sad. I understand. Well, think of it this way. What is hell if not just one really long, weird torture thing, right?
Yeah.
So we can still do the weird torture stuff, buddy. And, we can still get all of that. This just opens up the door now for maybe some more supernatural elements to it, right?
I guess.
That's what I thought. Okay, so we can have our weird torture thing, and we can also have demons and monsters. And it also means that you can probably get an unrealistic amount of blood and gore. Maybe they'll bring in another kid and shoot him in the face again.
You think?
I think they might.
Okay.
Because now that it's hell, you could realistically shoot as many kids in the face as you want.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? You could just infinitely, it could even be the same kid, just over and over brought back to be shot in the face. Would that make you happy?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It'd be pretty fun, wouldn't it?
Mm.
So, maybe don't count it out yet. See where it goes from here. See what it does with its new idea.
Okay.
All right. The recent memory rose in my mind like a monster from a bog. My eyes went wide. As much as I wanted to deny it, he was right. I killed myself. The incident tore through my brain like a bullet train, left me reeling.
I'm Danny, by the way.
The man said, ignoring the shocked look on my face.
And I'm number 2 here. I run the orientation process. I want to make this quick because I'm tired of repeating this fucking thing to you pathetic suicidals.
You get one question before I begin.
Okay. How does that make you feel? Does that perk you up to it any? I'm the orientation. You get one question. That's how this works, you know? Does that make you feel anything? Huh? A little bit. Maybe getting a little bit of a unique depiction here. Maybe this won't be your standard pitchfork and, you know, whatnot. It's like, oh, we have a whole process. There's an orientation. You get one question. I'm imagining this guy, but thanks to your stunning voice acting, I'm imagining Danny as like a Walton Goggins type, you know? So that's cool. You have like a salesman type as the front door for hell. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He stared down at me and I scrambled to organize my thoughts into something cohesive. This was all horrifying. Why'd I killed myself? I fought against the fog and panic, and the mist of confusion slowly began to lift. I had just lost my job. Yeah, that was the start. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced more of the memory to emerge. I lost my job, and I was about to lose the house. My wife, Tess, she found out and was going to leave me. I didn't have any way out. Didn't have any options. Getting fired had come out of the blue, and I didn't have much in savings. I was broke, soon to be homeless. My wife hated me for it. There was something else. Yes, that's right. She'd been cheating on me. I had seen texts on her phone while she slept one night and confirmed my suspicions. My life had degraded to shit, and I had run out of options. Humiliated and ashamed, I decided death was my only option.
I'm imagining that he looks over at his wife's phone and there's just like a nude pic and he's like, oh my God, she's been getting nude pics from other men. You like look over and it's just a guy doing a goat brain.
A goat brain?
Yeah, it's where you shove your balls to the back of your legs and have a peek out the back of your thighs. Just his asshole and the goat brains in there. That's the nudes that his wife is getting. Oh, my suspicions are true.
My investigation has turned new evidence.
Inspector Gadget finds out that his wife is cheating on him. Go, Gadget, broken heart.
That's a funny visual. You have like a Sherlock Holmes type inspector, like 19th century, and it's just like the
giant magnifying glass on an iPhone screen, and it's just a guy doing a goat brain and spreading his asshole open.
It's like the most vulgar porn imaginable, just disgusting. That he's like, yes, very interesting.
I think me wife may be cheating on I.
It's like he's getting pictures of his wife just like in the most unholy positions, just absolutely just awful. Yeah. And he's like, what could all this mean?
Well, I better sleep on it.
This case is nearly cracked, but the clues keep
well, the clues keep stacking.
Just tons and tons of those kinds of pictures she's like holding it in front of his face and just swiping. So she's just like going through the gallery on her phone.
I feel like she's trying to tell me something.
She's like, this is why I'm leaving you. And he's standing there in like the full like tweed stitched overcoat with the hat and like the pipe.
Yeah, sweating profusely underneath a duvet.
She's like, this is why I'm leaving you showing. And he's like, what could it all mean?
But sweetheart, why? He's just always inquisitive. She's like, I don't know how to make it any more clear. I'm done.
What was the first thing I did wrong? There has to be some
I have to get to the bottom of this. Yeah.
So she says, I had decided death was my only option. Hey, fucker, do you have a question or not?
Danny said, snapping his fingers in front of my face. I was sucked back into reality, and I asked the only question that mattered.
Is this hell?
Danny snorted.
That's always what people ask.
He began to pace back and forth in front of me.
No, this is not hell. It's not heaven either. This is the Black Farm. And no, I didn't name it that. This is where God sends the souls who have ended their own life. Suicidals, you see. He doesn't really know what to do with you, and neither does the devil. There are generally good people who kill themselves. Seems cruel to banish them to hell for alternative for a moment of weakness, right?
Personally, I think God and the devil were just tired of arguing about it. And so they send them here to the Black Farm.
Did God create this place?
I asked, growing more and more confused. Danny spit on the floor, chuckling.
Sure, at some point, but he lost control of it and he put the pigs in charge. What's the pigs?
I asked, unsure. I wanted to know the answer. So how are you feeling now? Huh?
I don't know.
Is it, you don't know. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. It's not heaven or hell. It is the Black Farm. And Danny says God lost control when he put the pig in charge. Does any
optimistically, I'm like, ooh, that's fun. Because it kind of reminds me of this Hideshi Hino comic. I think it's just literally called Pig Farm. Pessimistically, I think to myself, the most all-knowing being created a place called the Black Farm. And he put walking, talking pig people in charge.
Well,
that's the pessimistic
never been
side.
Explicitly a pig. It's called the pig.
No,
Right?
no, I'm just saying that's where my pessimistic mind's at.
Okay.
My I want to have fun thing is I'm like, ooh, the flavor of this is nice. It reminds me of that horror manga that I read.
Yeah, it is very
I'm
flavorful
swaying.
so far. I
Yeah.
agree.
The visuals are fun. Now I'm picturing it a bit more, not necessarily dystopian, but a bit more surreal. Like maybe like if you went outside, the skies would be black or
Yeah.
you know, or I mean like red or something.
It's in like a very limbo sort of place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the pig?
I asked, unsure. I wanted to know the answer. Danny held up a hand, annoyed.
Can I fucking finish? God created this place eons ago, put the pigs in charge, and they forgot about it for a while. Well, when his back was turned, the pig decided to use his own new powers to try and create his own little world. This mess you see around you is the fractured remains of that experiment. The Black Farm used to be a lot nicer, but the pig wanted things to be different. He wanted to create his own vision. These people you see, these monsters, they are the pig's attempts to create functioning life. Instead of mirroring God's earth, these mutated, horrible creations are full of sin and hatred. They run rampant here, unabashed. This place is chaos. The Black Farm is a circus of freaks and monsters, and it's your eternity.
Fear boiled in my gut like thick oil. No, this couldn't be my end. I didn't believe in stuff like this. This wasn't real. I would wake up soon and realize I was just having a nightmare. That had to be it. Then he stood before me and lightly slapped my face.
Hey, don't go into hysterics on me. I haven't finished yet.
I raised my teary eyes to meet his, and Danny smiled.
You can always feed the pig.
My breath pushed from my lungs like burning steam.
What does that mean?
Danny spread his hands, still smiling.
It's as simple as that. Feed the pig. If you do so, there's a chance he'll send you back to your life.
And what happens if it doesn't?
You get sent to hell. So flip a coin if you have one. Stay here with us or feed the pig. If you choose to stay, I'll let you go. I'll let you go out there.
He said, pointing towards the door.
But let me assure you, what awaits you at the end of that hallway, well, let's just say hell isn't that much worse.
I swallowed hard, trying my best to digest everything. Why wouldn't I try feeding the pig? Whatever that meant. If there is even a sliver of hope, I would take it. An eternity in this place, the Black Farm, be sent to hell or feed the pig? I would do anything for a chance to go back. This nightmare made my problem seem nothing in comparison. Danny raised a hand before I could speak.
I'll let you think on it for a while. I'll be back later.
I want to feed the pig!
I cried, not wanting to spend another second in this awful room. I could hear a woman screaming down the hallway, her cries rising as something meaty pounded into her. Oh,
Okay.
That just came out of nowhere. That was like a.
Whoa, all right.
All right, well, that was uncomfy all at once.
Yeah, see.
That came out
So
of
I get blamed for laughing at a child getting his head blown off, but
all right.
something meaty pounded into her.
I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at like the story had none of that, and then it's
No,
like,
I know, yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, it could be like thuds of a punch. To be fair,
sure, that's
could be
what's
like- it could be
happening. Just like in the
It should be
Tommy Taffy story, where when something was,
was
going
the
on, in the
WWE
daughter's
stars.
room, it was a WWE game. Yeah.
yeah, it was
course.
a tombstone pile driver.
Yeah. My breath came in sharp pulls, and my throat burned. Danny noticed the noise and grinned.
Sounds pretty bad, huh?
He said softly as the woman's voice creaked with agony. Something was still slamming into her, the sound of beaten flesh igniting my imagination with horrors. That could be punching.
I think it's someone getting fucking beaten to death. is what I think it is.
Yeah. That's what it is for sure. So what do you think about him being immediately like, I want to feed the pig?
I mean, I'd probably do the same.
Yeah, but I feel like he needs to know more before he makes that decision, because like the guy Danny described it as a coin flip between hell or going back to Earth, right?
Yeah.
So like that seems like something you would want more info on before you do it, you know?
No, I think so as well. I guess I'm trying to leave my rational brain to the side, and I'm trying to picture myself if I was already tied up in this hellscape of a place too. I found out that pigs tried creating life, and they basically ended up with this weird Tim Burton world.
Yeah.
I would probably just be like, I'm ready to try it.
I guess,
Get me the fuck
yeah.
out of here.
Sure. He's going through a lot right now.
But I mean, I think a more rational person, you would need to be like, well, what does that mean? What does that entail? You know, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
try to just figure out something. Like, is there anything I can do to favor the odds or anything like that? What does that even mean? Because it sounds like he's going to be eaten by the pig, but
That's what it sounds like. Is he either accepts your, what I'm thinking is he either accepts your offering or he eats you, and by end product you get sent to hell or something.
Probably,
is what I'm assuming.
Please, just let me feed the pig. I don't want to stay here any longer.
Danny turned away from me.
I'll be back later. Enjoy your time alone. Really think about your situation. Weigh your options, and remember, you put yourself here.
And with that, he was gone, leaving me in the dim room. Tears streamed down my face. The woman didn't stop screaming for hours.
I was gonna say too, I wonder if, since they're already dead, if you're being tortured, if you just can never actually go into shock, or you can't actually pass out, or you just have to, if it's just like, oh, you're not gonna die again, right? So someone could just beat the hell out of you forever if they wanted to.
Yeah. And so, like, I imagine the kid that got shot in the face was one of the creations that was mentioned, right?
Oh,
We're
yeah,
like half
right.
humans. Because otherwise, what does that mean to get your head blown off in the afterlife? Are you just headless now?
I'm wondering why they cheered about that. If that's the case.
It's probably the other Dementors and stuff like that. Just like seeing gore, like seeing, you know.
Oh, they're all about depravity and violence.
Yeah.
So anytime they see that, they're like, yeah.
I'm getting very. Are you familiar with the video game Outlast?
The found footage one.
Yeah,
right? Or
yeah,
like
the one where you're where everyone in
asylum.
there. Yeah, you're in the asylum and everyone in there is like going crazy because of the wall rider. So they're all like, they're all laughing and like trying to attack you and stuff like that because they want to see gore and whatever. That's kind of the image I have
Yeah, I could see that.
in my mind's eye, at least. At some point, I fell into a semi-sleep. The darkness in the room seemed to press in on me and my eyes fluttered shut. My body ached and my throat was a halo of fire. Thirst raked at my windpipe like sharp glass. My lips felt like crumpled paper. My head thundered like a drum. The room swam in and out of focus and my mind drifted towards the horrific sounds that never ended. I was lost in a haze, unaware that something was sliding into the room until I felt a sharp prick on my big toe. I jolted out of my daze as my bare foot ignited with pain. I screamed and tried to move, but my bindings held me tight. The room rushed back into focus, and I blinked in agony as I felt blood trickle between my toes. I looked down for the source of pain, and I felt a scream claw at my throat. Staring up at me was an armless man. He slithered on the floor like a worm. His bald heads. I'm sorry.
That's kind of sick.
I'm sorry, Hunter. I thought you were upset when you found out this was a hell depiction.
Well, I like armless dudes slithering around the floor like a little worm.
Okay. You just like that? There's something funny about that to you, about disabled people?
It's something creepy.
You know, between that, between you laughing at people getting hurt, between you laughing at Diego, the guy you lived with who like couldn't speak your language and stuff, I feel like
reminisced, beautifully reminisced.
I feel like there's something to you about the suffering of others that you should probably think about.
I feel like you are hitting the hammer right on the head.
Yeah, hit the hammer on the nail with that one.
That's my cute that's my cute little quirk though.
You're into suffering? You like
No, not that I'm into suffering, but it makes me uncomfortable and I giggle.
Oh, okay.
See, that's
so,
why that's
so
what makes me so cute.
Put off by it that you have to laugh.
I think I'm so shocked by it at times that when I hear the idea of first off, how was the man holding the brick, you know? And then he, what's he do? Holding it? Doubt it. He doesn't have arms. And he slid in the room like a little worm. But to me, I'd be like, if I was there, I just uncomfortable. Think how dirty his belly is.
Think how dirty his belly is. All right. Slithered on the floor like a worm, his bald head scabbed and filthy. His legs were wrapped together in barbed wire, forcing him to wriggle his body to move. His eyes were lidless and wide, two bloodshot white orbs that stared up at me with hungry intensity. His teeth had been removed and replaced with long screws which jutted from his bleeding gums like a broken rock formation.
That's sick.
I'm sorry, I thought you didn't like that this was hell. It's almost like if the author's creative, you can use hell for some very interesting body horror depictions.
I don't know why you're trying to throw me down the river here. I was a little disappointed. Now I think this is cool. It's like what kind of reminds me of is like the Silent Hill or like some like old PS2 horror game stuff. Silent Hill or fucking like almost like The Suffering too.
Because when you use supernatural themes effectively, you can get to some really strange points. Like I just want to hear you say you were wrong in your conception about it when you found out yourself.
I don't think you'll admit that.
Okay. We'll see as the story goes on.
All right.
Around his neck was a chain leash, which I followed across the floor to the open door. The end of the leash was held by a tall, naked man. His body was hairless and flabby, covered in similar scabs like his pet. A dirty bag was pulled over his head that hid his features except for a single red eye that peeked out at me from a crude cut in the cloth. He stared at me and groped his... Oh no. Here it goes.
No, go ahead.
He stared at me and groped his engorged penis, his breath heavy and labored. As the armless man wriggled towards me again, his master...
What is that word?
His master started to... Another word that starts with master.
Jacket.
There you go. He started cranking it.
Started beating off.
Cranking the hog is actually a fitting name
his
for
master
it.
Started cranking the hog. Started yunking his doink.
He started absolutely jorking it. I screamed as the screw-filled mouth bit at me again, and my cry seemed to stimulate the naked man even more.
Get off me! Stop it!
I screamed, horrified. I tried to kick at the man, doing my best to avoid his sharp metal teeth. I brought my heel down on his head, and he screamed as his face bounced off the floor. A moan of pleasure escaped the bagged man's mouth, and I turned away as a mist of black sprayed on the floor. Ew. There was a rattle of chains, and I turned back to see the two of them leaving. The armless man dragged by his neck out the door, looked at where the bagged man had finished, and saw a puddle of dead ants. Ugh! I vomited onto myself thick, chunky curtains of bile and slime.
Get me out of here!
I screamed, strands of puke running down my chin.
I don't belong here!
Ants, bro? Dead ants.
I'm not gonna lie. A frothy ejaculate of ants would be. It would not feel good.
Oh, man.
That would scrape an itch. And also, I thought that. So the black mist was just a collection of. Do you think they're alive ants or dead ants?
I think they're dead. Well, I think what he means is just like, from his perspective, it was just black.
Yeah.
He looks closer and it's ants. Oh gosh, that's so
You're right.
brutal. Oh, I listened to the two men retreat down the hallway, the clink of chains accompanied by the sound of flesh being dragged across the concrete. I screamed again, but I knew no one was going to help me. I spit a wad of phlegm and bile onto the floor, ridding my mouth of its sourness. I forced myself to calm down. It wasn't easy. After some time, I heard someone else approaching. I'd been in a miserable lull, my mind a blank canvas of dark despair, but the noise roused me from my trance-like state. The muscles in my arms burned from being restrained for so long, and I shifted them desperately, trying my best to prepare myself for whatever horror was about to walk through the door. Footsteps drew closer, and then a woman walked into the room. She stopped at the doorway and looked at me. One of her eyes was missing, dark cavernous hole in her skull. Her hair was ratty and wild, brown tangled like a forgotten nest. Her skin was pale, filthy, and she was dressed in rags. Couldn't tell how old she was, but there was maturity in her one good eye.
Still thinking?
She asked, her voice coarse and brittle.
What?
She took a step closer.
Are you still deciding whether you're going to feed the pig or not?
I looked at her cautiously.
Yeah, I am. Who are you? What do you want?
I was once where you are now, trying to decide my fate. I couldn't believe that this was what happened. What happened after we die. It wasn't what I taught. Religion didn't warn me about this place.
Tested my bindings again before asking.
You killed yourself too? You're a person like me? You're not one of those creations?
Breaks my heart you have to ask, though.
She touched the hole where her eye should have been.
Though, I can understand your caution. Yeah, I'm suicidal. I've been here a long time. But that was my choice. I decided to chance it here.
Motion with my head towards the door.
What's up there? What is all this?
She exhaled heavily, leaned against the wall.
I can't even begin to describe this place. It's like nothing you've ever seen. You walk down the hall and go out into it, and you'd have to see it to understand.
How bad is it? Why are all these mutated people hurting and killing each other?
She let her head loll back against the wall.
It would take years for you to fully understand this place. Years you don't have. Right now, you have to make a decision. Stay or feed the pig. They tell me hell is worse than here, but it can't be by much. Monsters and suicidals roam the Black Farm, killing, raping, brutalizing, and then you wake up and wonder how long you can survive before something else kills you. It's an endless cycle.
So why did you stay? Why didn't you feed the pig? I don't even know what that means, but I would do anything for a chance to go back. I can't stay here. I just can't.
She smiled sadly at me.
Why? Why did I choose this? It's simple, really. I'm a coward. I was a coward when I was alive, and I'm a coward in death. When it came down to it, when the moment presented itself, I chose to stay here. I didn't know what awaited me outside. It boiled down to a simple choice fueled by my own fear.
What is the pig? What does it do to you?
She suddenly turned to go.
I'm afraid that's for you to find out. But let me warn you, Think hard before you make a decision. Sometimes suffering through your fears better than suffering for eternity. Be brave.
What do I do?
I yelled, shaking in my chair. She walked out the door. She paused and took one last look over her shoulder. Her eyes darted around and she dropped her voice to a whisper.
Feed the pig.
And with that, she was gone. So how do you feel about that interaction?
Interesting. Interested to see that. I'm guessing that the longer you stay there, one, I'm wondering is every time you die, if you get kind of, if you die for a second and then come back, like basically a tortured zombie husk forever is kind of how that read to me. Or if just by being in there, your body is just slowly deteriorating and becoming a monster as well.
I think it's kind of like the way she said that you get killed and then you wake back up here. So it implies that every time you die, you kind of respawn, sort of, right? Is that the vibe you get?
Think that's kind of what I was thinking. Like if you got struck in the back of the head, you might die, but then you would wake up. But I'm guessing that you keep the wound, kind of, is kind of what I'm thinking.
So you think she's missing an eye?
Yeah, like somebody stabbed her through her eye socket. You know what I mean? And then she woke up and was missing her eye, or the guy pulled the whatever out and took her eye with it.
So it's just like an infinite hell field of things constantly killing each other over and over.
Yeah, just the most depraved type stuff of just like a field of depravity. I'm wondering what exactly feed the pig means, like what that actually entails, that process.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly can't remember. I'm liking this so far. I'm into it. I think it's a cool concept. I think it's interestingly done. I'm a fan.
The Silent Hill turn is really, really fun visually. Like, really enjoyed the guy with screws for teeth and him like being on a leash and stuff. I just imagine like all of the, now that my mind, even though in my mind I'm picturing basically like rusty walls, just Silent Hill stuff is I just keep like, it gets more, the setting is becoming more crimson, more orange and browns, just like rust.
I imagine the sky's like a red, like the trees are black, you know, like
black trees. Sure.
Yeah. It's like a nothingness.
Just kind of a, it's a different version of hell, basically.
Rot. Yeah, pretty much. It's like decay allowed for thousands of years on the people, on the land, everything. Yeah.
What do you think that place smells like?
It smells like putrid flesh. Has to.
Just like dead skin everywhere.
Yeah, it smells like, you know what it smells like when an animal's been dead a while. Just everywhere, all the time.
I would imagine it's a collection of all kinds of things, piss, shit, that kind of stuff. I imagine
every time someone dies, their body just lays out there. You know, just rotting.
Well, I'm wondering too if the girl that we just talked to, if she smells that way too, because she's just technically rotting skin and stuff. Even the people walking around smell that way.
Everyone's decomposed.
Or maybe it just smells like bacon. Who knows?
If it just smelled like bacon, but you couldn't have any.
Well, I'll be honest. The older I get, the bacon becomes less and less alluring to me, if I'm being completely honest. And now I will go as far to say that when my wife will make bacon for herself for like breakfast sometimes, and it almost makes me gag, the smell of bacon.
Are you the Grinch? What the heck? You don't like the smell? I
don't know.
Of bacon?
I honestly don't know. I used to like, now I don't know why, but like the smell of bacon, for some reason, it makes me like seriously sick to my stomach. I'm like, I can't do it. And I'm going to sound like a little Nancy, but I will say, don't mind turkey bacon. Love some nice turkey bacon.
All right, here's what needs to happen at some point. Me and you need to go camping, and I'm going to
make bacon. I will throw up on you.
Have you ever smelling bacon in an enclosed kitchen's one thing, but have you ever been like outside and like smelled bacon like on a
campfire type stuff? Definitely.
And you don't like that?
Well, it's been a while, but I feel like now even I would rather smell the beautiful fresh air and the trees and not the goddamn disgusting pig meat.
I'm just going to keep reading. Okay. How you randomly drop stuff. You're like, I hate the smell of bacon. Like, not just like favors, like,
you know, man, sorry that I'm trying to like just let you know who I am as a person.
Yeah, but every time you let me know who you are as a person, it makes you less human. The things you dislike.
Then I will stop because if it's going to ruin our relationship as co-host, then I'll just stop telling you about myself.
I don't want that because it's great material for the podcast. Okay. And more importantly than anything to do with you is the success of this channel. Let's get that straight.
Well, I mean, I'm glad we're at least in agreement there.
Yeah, at least we got our prayers over. So you keep being strange.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that the things that you have issues with aren't like things people have yes or no's about. It's like core human experiences. You're like, well, it's just funny, death. Or it's also like, oh, you know what? I hate the smell of food. Like
I didn't say death was funny. I'm saying that out of nowhere, in a story, right? There is let's say I have this deal of like, I went to.
Every day I'm slightly more convinced you are bug people in a hunter-shaped costume.
That's fine. Actually, I'm a collection of grasshoppers.
Yeah,
just inside of human leather. It's pretty much what I am. That's all I am.
Yeah,
I'm a grasshopper scarecrow. That's what I am. I'm fine with that.
Scarecrow. Every now and then we'll be out to eat or something like that. Hunter will like go to eat his food and like grasshoppers fall. And he's like, oh, I gotta quit doing that as he's shoveling the back end real quick.
I picture whenever I got dinner with you and Kayla, I'm like, you guys are like, yeah, I really love this place. And it's just me stiff, like my eyes and my mouth open, and like grasshoppers are just like hopping out of it. And you're just talking to me as if it's a normal conversation. I'm just...
Yeah, just like, oh man, how do you like the food? And you're like a mannequin over there with grasshoppers pouring out on the table. Like,
yeah, my neck,
everything. Yeah,
my neck falls back and falls off my body, and like bugs are just like protruding everywhere, jumping and going. You're like, oh wow, the steak here is unbelievable. Everyone's screaming in terror and running out of the restaurant.
You have to try the spinach dip. It's insane.
Which makes it even better that I'm assuming that you had to unbuckle me from the backseat of your car and like carry me into the restaurant.
And then I walk in like, table for two, please. As you walk over my arm. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do when you die. I'm gonna have like a Hunter statue I bring places. Like, oh, this is my best friend. I love him. Ha, isn't that right, Hunter? Ha. Remember our podcast? That was a lot of fun. Hey, especially, we like that, don't we? And the bugs are just like all over the mannequin's face. It's like they're like chewing through it.
It's like just sounds like a bunch of cicadas in the room.
It's like the loudest noise ever. Like all of them clicking off of each other and stuff.
If I die tragically, Isaiah, and you don't have some kind of manic episode and carry like at least some kind of Funko Pop around of me,
oh, of course,
I'm
I'm gonna make podcast episodes with it too, where it's just like sitting there and I'm like, remember Tommy Taffy? It was pretty wacky, huh? Baraska. Hey, Hunter.
I like to think that you actually go so manic that you are having a conversation with it, but people can't hear the other end. So it's like, right?
Yeah, I've said it. I've said it in public. Like, hey, what would Kyle from Baraska say? And then I'm quiet for 20 seconds, and I'm like, oh, Hunter,
true.
Classic Hunter. Yeah, for sure. My wife's left me. I live in like a motel room now.
You also definitely put that Funko Pop in a jar.
I wouldn't. Now it's different. Now the tone's dramatic. See what I mean? This is what you do. You take something.
No.
Stop talking. Shut up. You take something. You take something that is like funny and normal, and you're like, you know what would make this so much worse? I never want to hear you say the word Baraska again or Tommy Taffy, because you do it with real life scenarios. It's so much worse.
I don't know, dude. I've seen the mason jars you have in your house. I feel like a Funko Pop could fit in there. All right. Anyways, let's continue on.
I sat in silence once again. My mind was spinning, desperately turning over my options. I still couldn't fully understand the situation I was in. It was too much, too overwhelming. The other side of death wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't know what I had expected, but it wasn't this nightmare. Questions crashed over my mind like cold waves onto a sinking ship. How was I supposed to make a choice when I didn't even know what my actions entailed? This place, the Black Farm, I couldn't stay here. But what if I went to hell? What if I didn't get sent back? I would be out of the fire and into the frying pan. Did he write that backwards on purpose?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. Because hell,
out of the fire.
Because the saying is out of the frying pan into the fire, right? Like we went from bad to worse.
Well, I'm wondering if he's doing that because it's like pig. If it's like, oh, you're being, I don't know.
But no, going to hell would absolutely be going to the fire, not the frying pan. He's in the frying pan right now. Whatever. Anyway, okay. My existence would forever be damned to unending misery. Here, though, there were people like me, suicidals. It wasn't all monsters and mutilated murderers. Maybe I could hole up somewhere with them, try to scrape together a passable existence. Surely that would be better than getting sent to hell. No, this wasn't going to be how I spend my eternity. I refused to let it be. If there was even the slightest sliver of hope, I would take it. I didn't want to wonder what could have been. I didn't want to be tormented by doubt. I would feed the pig and accept whatever fate chose for me. When I boiled it down, that was the only option left. I would feed the pig.
You gotta feed the pig.
You gotta feed the pig, I think.
I don't think there's any rational thought to stay.
I would want to know more, like, what do I do? Is it just random chance, or is it like a question? Is it a game or something, you know?
Well, I think all of that feels irrelevant to where it's just like, if that is your only way out,
I'm still saying
you
do it.
gotta
I'm
try.
saying that some prep time would help, you know?
Oh, I think so. Well, yeah, for sure. If I could have if I could actually prepare for it, that'd be cool. But I don't feel like we're in that kind of.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Seems like a yes, no kind of thing. I think when Danny shows up, that's the one time you get asked it forever, you know?
Yeah. Hey, hello, Danny.
I yelled, rattling in my chair.
I've made my decision, Danny.
After a couple seconds, I heard footsteps echo down the hall towards me. Danny walked through the doorway, an annoyed look on his face.
I've made my choice. I'm going to feed the pig. Sounds like you've really thought a lot about it since I left you. Man, let me do a better line read of that. Ooh, sounds like you've really thought a lot about it since I left you. Fuck! Let me try it again. Sounds like you've really thought a lot about it since I left you.
There you go.
There we go. Perfect. Boom.
I looked to my lips.
You'd do the same thing if you were in my place.
Danny walked behind me.
I was in your place once, and I chose differently.
My eyes widened, and then Danny wrapped my entire head with a strip of thin cloth, binded me. Sucked in as much air as I could, but each lungful felt empty. I felt Danny cut me free from the chair on my body side as my stiff muscles were released. I rolled my shoulders as my hands were released, and I moaned with relief. I dug my fingers into my back, and I stretched, my bones creaking.
Keep your blindfold on, follow me.
Danny said, pulling me up. My legs shook as I put weight on them, my thighs trembling after their long cemented position. I groped blindly in front of me and found Danny's shoulder. I rested my hand on it as he walked us out of the room.
Wondering how kind Danny is, actually. Wondering if he's a guiding spirit.
Well, now that I found out that he was once, a spirit, then maybe. I mean, he's clearly got attitude to him or something. And
yeah, he seems bitter to be in the situation he's in.
There's an evil here for sure, but I don't what's Danny going to do about it if he's just a soul, right?
Well, how many times has he seen this happen too?
Yeah,
it must be so rudimentary. The whole thing of letting our protagonist put his hand even on him to guide him through it's more of a human act of kindness. Yeah. It does, yeah.
Yeah, than everything else we've seen down here so far, especially stuff that's come from there. As we entered the hallway, I could suddenly hear sound I hadn't before. Clink of metal, long, fleshy, tearing noise, something vomiting. The sound sprang to life in my ears, painting the darkness before my eyes with imaginary scenes of horror. I gripped Danny's shoulder tighter, stumbling behind him, my heart thundering. I heard something trailing behind us, but Danny didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't care. Flesh slapped the concrete mere inches behind me, and I suddenly felt hot breath on my neck and the click of a wet tongue against gums. My breathing became even more labored as fear choked me.
Going to feed the piggy, are you?
Something whispered in my...
I mean, that's what it said. That is how it's typed, at least, okay?
That was almost a Shrek. Just imagine.
I mean, it's borderline pirate.
Going to feed the piggy, are you?
I mean, if this is a hell, effectively, or an eternity, it could have been a pirate from the 1400s,
Who knows? Who knows?
Something whispered in my ear. I felt something press against the back of my head, and I tried not to think about what it might be. It was wet and slimy, and I heard the thing chuckle.
He's a hungry pig, and you might for sure ain't get his meal now, eh?
Its voice low and unlike anything I had ever heard before. It was like a series of grunts and moans jumbled together to form broken words. To my relief, I heard the thing retreat back to wherever it had come from. I continued to follow Danny. He remained silent as we walked, and I could feel shifts in the air. The thick heat gave way to a cooler, almost pleasant temperature, but then it kept increasing. Soon I was shivering violently against the cold. I couldn't see anything, but I felt a breeze on my face, like we were outside. I didn't hear Danny open any doors, but nothing about this place was natural. It was like reality blurred and bled into itself, like reels of film melting together. Teeth chattering, I was suddenly blasted with intense heat and I gasped. My feet tripped over themselves as the terrain changed, and I was suddenly walking on what felt like warm iron. My ears were filled with the sound of blazing furnaces and the clash of working machinery. I couldn't see it, but I felt like there was a vast open expanse overhead. I smelled ash, tasted dirt on my tongue, sweat already forming along my spine. Suddenly, I crashed into Danny as he came to a halt. Backed up a few paces, quickly, muttered my apologies. I could hear movement in front of us, a rustle of chains and an odd clicking sound on the metal floor. Something else, too. Something snorting. And then, the room was filled with a deafening sound of an immense pig squealing. I covered my ears, head splitting at the high-pitched wail. I grit my teeth as the noise echoed off the metal and faded into a series of snorts and grunts. It sounded absolutely enormous.
I've brought another one,
Danny announced, a slight tinge of respect lining his voice.
He wants to feed the pig.
I waited, expecting to hear some answer, the cloth around my eyes sealing my sight to darkness. I realized my knees were shaking and my back was coated in sweat. I was terrified.
If that is what you wish,
Danny said, and I felt him bow under my hand. Apparently, some unseen conversation had just happened, and Danny took my wrist, pushed me forward.
approach the pig.
My whole body trembled, and my knees locked into place. Robbed from sight, I raised my hands, trying to get my bearings, the heat and ash filling my head with nausea. I felt like I was going to throw up, my stomach rolling like a dead sea. I didn't know where I was or what horror lay before me. I felt lost and tiny, a fresh splash of tears dripping from my eyes and soaked into the cloth around my face.
Please, let me see what's happening.
Danny was suddenly behind me, pushing me forward. Guided my hands towards something as we stepped together in unison. Even with the cloth around my face, I could see a giant mass of towering darkness before me. It was a spot of black on an already darkened canvas. As we walked forward, I was suddenly assaulted by a horrendous smell, and I gagged, turning away. Danny's grip tightened, forced me to continue. I could sense something just in front of me. A living, shifting mass of flesh. The smell increased to a wretched level, and I gagged again. The hot air was being blown on my face, a blast of heat that came in repeated short bursts. I vomited into my cloth, the source of the smell stemming from the hot air. I choked as the bile gushed over the fabric, soaking it and momentarily cutting off my oxygen. Danny slapped my hands away, and I took a few seconds to steady my breath again. I was openly crying now, fear and misery collapsing my willpower. The wet cloth stunk as I sucked in soggy breaths. My own stomach acid coated my skin, and I begged for all this to be over. And then something squealed directly in front of me. I felt my bladder go. I was standing before the pig. It was the source of darkness in my obscured vision, a fat, titanic creature that filled my senses with every breath it blew into my face. Danny raised my hands, and suddenly I was touching the pig's snout. I recoiled immediately, but Danny forced my hands back. Its fur was stiff and brittle, and as my shaking hands explored up to its nose, the size of the animal became clear to me. It was gigantic and had weight over a ton. Its flesh wiggled under my sweating hands, and it opened its mouth slightly. My fingers curled around the teeth, the size of kitchen knives, and I realized its mouth was absolutely cavernous. Pig squealed again, and I heard its hooves clack against the ground. It sounded like thunder rolling across an open field in the middle of summer.
Take this blindfold off, please.
I begged, my legs turning to jelly. Danny had taken a few steps back, and I heard reverence in his voice.
You don't want to do that.
I jumped as the pig nudged me with its nose, the wet circle of flesh squishing against the length of my face. I shuddered away, raising my hands and omitting a cry of fear.
Feed the pig.
Danny instructed, his voice like cold steel now.
You made your choice. Now live with it. It's the only chance you have to going back. Or maybe the pig won't like how you taste and send you to hell. Only one way to find out.
My eyes widened behind the vomit-soaked cloth.
Won't like how I taste?
Climb into its mouth.
My bladder let go again, and I felt warm piss run down my leg.
No, you can't mean I...
Danny's voice hardened.
Climb into the mouth and don't stop crawling forward until it's done with you. Please!
I begged, turning towards Danny's voice, reaching out blindly.
Please, there has to be some other way. Don't make me do this.
I was a mess of snot and tears, my words bumbling from my mouth like a toddler. Danny stepped forward and spun me back to face the pig.
Do it! You made your choice. It will all be over soon. This is your only chance.
I could feel the pig breathing onto my face, its snout mere inches from mine. The smell and heat it emitted made me want to vomit again, but I held it back. This was insane. This wasn't happening. My mind spun and twisted in chaos and fear. There had to be some other way. I couldn't do this. I could not do this. Suddenly, I remembered the words of the woman. Sometimes suffering through your fear is better than suffering for eternity. Be brave. This was my only chance to get back to the world of the living. I'd made such a terrible mistake in killing myself. If I could go back and change my life, I wouldn't have to spend eternity here. I could change my ways, ensure a spot somewhere else, somewhere away from the pig. What if it decided to send me to hell? How much more suffering could I endure? I had to take the chance.
Please, God.
I whispered, taking a step forward.
If you can hear me, please, have mercy on me.
My shaking hands reached out for the pig, and I grasped its thick fur. I felt it slowly lower its head and open its mouth. It was waiting for me, its thick, hot breath stinking in my nostrils. This was it. No turning back now. I slowly gripped its teeth and pulled myself forward into its jaws. Its head was at a downward angle, and so I immediately fell onto my stomach at a 45-degree angle. Its wet tongue squished under me. I was shaking so hard I could barely breathe. Tears soaked my blindfold and my heart crunched against my ribs. I slowly reached forward and found another tooth to grab onto. Gritting my teeth, I pulled my body inward, past my knees. The pig raised its head, and I was suddenly completely horizontal with its tongue. Saliva and mucus dripped around me, and the heat was so intense I almost blacked out. My knees clacked against its front teeth as I pulled myself even deeper. Its inner cheeks pressed in around me, squeezing my body like a soaking, fleshy coffin. Crying, terrified, I reached ahead of me and found more teeth. I pulled myself deeper into its mouth, and I felt my feet slide past its lips. My whole body was coated in slime, and I opened and wept, grasping at the darkness for another tooth. Ugh. That's when the pig started to chew on me. Oh, God.
Oh, shit.
Oh. I screamed in crushing agony as my body was compressed between its massive teeth. I heard my legs snap instantly and felt wet foam pop from my skin.
That is awesome. Holy shit.
I shook violently as my body spasmed in shock, a mangled twist of blood and pain. Its tongue shifted me in its mouth. I felt it bite down on my shoulder. My eyes bulged in their sockets as I howled, a hot pillar crunching down on my collarbone. I threw up violently, unable to control myself, the pain overwhelming. Keep crawling. Screaming, bloodshot eyes rolling wildly. I reached forward with my good arm, wetly searching for another tooth. I gripped my teeth, blood squirting between them as my fingers wrapped around something solid. The pig bit down again, its tongue twisting my body so its molars could snap down on my knees. The pain brought darkness, but my howling screams forced my eyes to remain open.
Jesus, make it stop!
I bellowed, my trembling hand still gripping the tooth ahead of me.
Please make it fucking stop!
Ground my teeth together so hard they cracked, screaming as I slowly pulled my body deeper into the mouth. Something was changing. The tight walls of its throat squeezed my head and I realized I was almost through.
Come on, you motherfucker, come on!
I begged, vocal cords cracking. I reached ahead of me and grabbed onto a thick wad of flesh. My head felt like it was splitting and the pig bit down on me again. I gasped, blood exploding from my mouth in a great gush of red. It had pierced through my stomach, obliterating my insides like bloated noodles. Darkness rushed in on me, and I was in too much shock to even scream. The last of my strength, right as the blackness took me, pulled myself forward one last time, felt myself slide down its throat. Darkness. Falling. Screaming. I was screaming. Heat. Heat so intense I thought I would melt. Clanging. Something was hammering on a metal. Colors and images flew past me so quickly I could only make out their shape. Blood poured into my eyes. Felt like I would keep falling forever. Man, that whole segment, oh my gosh.
I love the idea of as a suicidal person, to atone and go back, you have to put yourself also through pain again, and you have to forcibly kill yourself again. It's super fascinating.
Yeah.
I love the idea of chewing, and this like pig is the literal gateway out of this world.
My guess is if you don't get past the teeth, you go to hell, I would guess, maybe.
I think that it's no matter what, you're getting chewed up like that. No matter what. I think it's when you go down the throat and then you you essentially die again. I think that's when you get judged again to see where you go. Is my interpretation of it.
Yeah. Suddenly, my eyes snapped open and I was falling. My breath rushed back to my lungs in a great wave of purity. My face bounced off wood floor and I cried out as I felt my nose break. Tasted blood and saw stars. I'd stopped falling.
Oh, that lucky motherfucker. I think this is going to say that the rope snapped.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. There's a ring of burning fire around my throat and I felt impossibly thirsty. I was lying on the floor. Slowly opened my eyes again and the darkness began to fade like morning mist under a hot sun. Colors blended together. Shapes came into focus. I was in my woodshed. I reached up around my throat and grasped at the source of heat. It was the rope I had hung myself with, but now it was severed, releasing me from the grip of death. Relief rolled over me in overwhelming waves of thanks. I curled up on the floor and sobbed, tears dripping from my eyes onto the dirty floor. My body shook, unbroken, as I wept, wet horse cries rising from my quivering lips. I had been spared. I was alive again. From my spot on the floor, I turned my eyes upward, my voice cracking.
Thank you, God. Oh, thank you.
Fell into another fit of uncontrollable sobbing.
I promise I won't waste my life again. I promise I'll make things right. I'll fix everything.
I don't know how long it was before I got up. Time seemed to stretch for eternity. My mind refused to rebuild the horrors of what I had just witnessed crushing me. But I knew I would do everything I could to make the most out of my life. I was going to live every day to the fullest. I would devote myself to helping others in dark times. I would reach out to as many suicidals as I could and try to save them from what awaited on the other side. I didn't want anyone else to have to witness the horrors of suicide. I didn't want anyone else to have to feed the pig.
Round of applause.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
was sick.
thought this wasn't so good because it was about.
Well, here's the thing. Well, yes, I did do my little baby boo boo thing earlier. Here's the thing. It's
Say you were wrong. Just say it.
It's a hard sell when someone comes in. It's like, you killed yourself. Mm-hmm. This is what hell is. Mm-hmm. It's very cartoonish, I think the only complaint I had of this story was that I just wish it was longer and we got to experience more of those, because the way that the beats of the story are now, it's pretty much like you get to experience the man or the pig made horrors, which is like the screw mouth guy, right? Yes. And all that stuff. And then you experience the souls who didn't get fed by the pig or who didn't feed the pig, and then they're basically just rotting. So you have the acts of it's like an act of 3 of you get to experience that, you experience her, and then it's him being like, fuck it, I'm gonna go feed myself to the pig. I just wish, like, I was so enveloped, which, you know, at the same time too, it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, it's the story of a guy who is essentially the entire time he's hanging. Like, it's him. It's like the super prolonged amount of time of a man kicking the chair and falling right before that thing actually
micro instant of death. Yeah,
exactly. What I love about this too is that it almost reads like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
is what it reads
That's
like
what
to
it
me.
feels like.
I love it. I love the idea of, for retribution, you have to forcibly kill yourself, crawl into the beast's mouth, and then endure that suffering again. Because that suffering that he endures is the last bit of, like, remember how worse it could be.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, you're probably begging to be like, oh, I wish this wasn't happening. I wish I was alive. It's crazy. I mean, it's very, it's powerful. It's just a sweet visual. It's also a smart thing too, to have him blindfold our protagonist, because I think that if he would have tried to describe stuff, it would have taken people out of
describing.
It would take people out, and they would
describing it as you hear the pig squeal, and it's so big, it's like a blackness within an already darkness. You know, of like how immense it is. That's enough. That's all you need.
I was kind of like, whenever the giant pig was there, I was like, that's kind of creepy. But the idea of having to crawl inside this giant mouth and like really get all those extremely, like, so many great details.
It doesn't eat you. You have to feed yourself to it.
Yeah, you have to crawl in, and then not only that, but then like laying on this enormous flat tongue, and then he starts chewing on you.
Man,
just such an amazing visual.
The description of that was, oh my gosh, that was getting rough.
That was probably one of my favorite things. That's probably like one of my favorite things we've read so far.
Like the legs
descriptive and painful,
and like the collarbone, the column coming down, and like your guts bursting open as it rips your midsection in half. So like your what's left of your torso crawls into its throat, still going. Oh man.
You know what's crazy about that too, I was like getting a lot of enjoyment out of, is while you were reading that, I had the exact same reaction to it. There's no way to really process that besides just almost laugh, like the absurdity and like how crazy it is. I was like recoiling in my seat, like thinking about being crushed.
It's rough.
It's insane.
And also the idea of being in a creature's mouth, like, it's so claustrophobic. It's so, and it was visceral too. Like, you smell the breath and you're going to the source of it, and it's like, the great stinking monster. It's hot. It's wet. It's
It kind of reminds me of the ending of Borderlands a bit, of like that same kind of
exactly
like being trapped alive.
Yeah.
And to me, especially like claustrophobia, I'm so claustrophobic. That entire thing of having to forcibly crawl into tighter spaces is just unnerving.
I was a pulp of flesh and pulled myself into it.
So good.
To the tightness of its throat. Ugh.
I was picturing, so let me ask you this. The entire time I was picturing Danny of what he was doing. So are we to assume that Danny did not he did not crawl in, or is he a man-made or a pig-made person?
All right. So I think the options are, because Danny says, I was like you once, right? And I assume he wasn't lying. So Danny Might have been someone who died way back, right? Like maybe one of the first there. And they need someone to bring new people to the pig. There might be other people like Danny who do the same thing. Because I imagine Danny's probably been here for eons, right? And if you're there for long enough, you kind of become like an acolyte almost for the pig. Because what else are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering how he got that position of power of being able to deliver that stuff. There was what I really liked about Danny was at first it seems like, oh, this is going to be another edgy, sadistic, like
killer,
puppet master kind of guy. But no, I mean, I found a lot of humanity in him by the end of the story when he comes back in, because it feels like this is a guy who has done this how many times? He's probably seen the worst outcomes. I mean, like, that's your perception is just hell all the time. So then whenever he comes back in and he sarcastically says, oh, yeah, you really mulled that over. I think he's just like, okay, well, I guess we're just doing this immediately. I guess you're not going to think about what this is.
But okay.
And also, I don't think that there's even an option, which if I feel like if it was a part of the rules and it's like, oh, you can't look at him, that'd be different. But I feel like he blindfolded our protagonist, so it would be easier for him to make the call to be like, climb in to the mouth. Because seeing that and having to perceive it is so much different than if you see that horror and being like, oh, okay, there's no way I can do that. Versus the idea, maybe you could get over the idea.
If it's dark,
of just being,
you can kind of like shut down
while it is
bit.
torturous. Yeah, it's like, while it's torturous, at least I don't have to like in my brain process all the stuff around me. I'm just feeling.
Mouth. Oh.
Oh,
gosh.
Yeah. That was really fun, man.
That's good. The pig imagery pops up a lot in like demonic traditions and stuff like that too. So I'm imagining like this beast of a pig, right? Like its features are horrific and evil and stuff. And then I'm imagining like, gosh, I want to see more about this world. It was so well done. Like the story was so well written that I would almost be afraid to change anything about it. But from what little peek we got about it, I want to see more so bad. Like they talk about at the beginning, like, well, that whatever's waiting for you down the hall, let's just say hell can't be much worse. And the woman says the same thing. So is there some other torture down the hall that we never see through the whole story?
Well, what I'm wondering is the people who stay there too long, I think, endure, because you have to think he was only there enough to experience one thing, right?
Yeah.
And it almost seems like Danny let him experience that kind of almost that torture just to be like, this is what's here. This is what awaits you. So I'm wondering people who keep doing that and they're so paralyzed with fear that they just are continuously brought in. Other monsters come in. They do all kinds of stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I also,
that's what I'm wondering.
The other thing, if I could lengthen any part of this story, it would be the walk to see the pig. Because I was so into it when it was like, he's following Danny. It says the thick heat gave way to cool, almost pleasant temperature, but then it kept decreasing. Soon I was shivering violently against the cold. It
almost feels like going down to the last layer of hell or something like that.
It's like Dante's ninth layer. Yeah, the frozen, the lake, the frozen lake of the souls and stuff like that. And then he goes somewhere else where he feels blasted with heat, and it feels like he's on warm iron, and he can hear furnaces and machinery. Like, bro, what? That's so cool.
Super, super industrial. Like I said, the all the callbacks. I'm wondering how much like Silent Hill played into it, but all that like furnace kind of vibes.
Yeah.
All that kind of imagery just kept bringing me back to just that kind of cool Japanese inspired like horror video game stuff. And I can't emphasize enough. If you guys have not heard of Hideshi Hino, he's the guy who inspired Junji Ito, and it's incredible. And there's a publisher called Starfruit Books. I bought their copy of a translated version of The Town of Pigs, and it's really, really fun. Just like really fun old Japanese horror manga. And I would really recommend it. Like the use of pigs in media is, it always feels kind of effective. Pigs are just so gross and weird.
They're gross and weird. They can represent like a gluttony. They can represent like an evil and stuff like that. They can also represent like cannon fodder almost, pigs to the slaughter, things like that.
Yeah.
I like I know it was very literal in the story, feed the pig, but I like feed the pig as a conceptual phrase too, almost, right? Like almost like a way to say grin and bear it, like get over it, but like a much more serious, like a commission almost of sometimes you have to suffer, right? Feed the pig.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through.
So you say pigs are obviously known to be gluttonous kind of stuff.
That's the image.
It almost feels
with, yeah.
It almost feels you could associate gluttony with selfishness, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it almost feels like a selfish act that you have to do again, which the turmoils of suicide and stuff obviously cannot be underplayed, but people do count it as a very selfish act to do whatever. So to do this thing of feeding the pig is almost feeding the selfish.
So it's like there's a symbolism of like you have to give yourself to something else, to some other beast, right? Almost playing on like you gave yourself to something previously. That's why you're here. So
you gave yourself to emotional coils that drove you to that thing in a way.
Yeah.
Those things drove you to that, like, I mean, I just like I don't know. It's an interest. There's so many different parallels, and I'm wondering how much of that was intentional.
There's obviously like in real life, outside of the story, there's several different reasons, mental illness, stuff like that. People get pushed to that unspeakable degree. But in Danny's case, or not Danny, in our protagonist's case specifically, it was him giving into his emotions, right? Giving into like the position his life was in.
Yeah.
So it's almost like
a desperate person.
Okay, you've offered up yourself once. Now offer up yourself again, sort of.
I feel so bad for him too. It's just like this beaten down man.
Oh,
you know, his wife is getting those
he's going
brain
through it.
pictures and
Poor guy.
all that stuff. And yeah, and then he has to confront himself too. What's weird is that it almost feels like this full circle thing is a guy who takes control of the bad shit that's going on in his life. Is how it feels. He is I would say he's at a very stagnated, I would say very similar to the woman who walks in with the one eye. I think that she is like, I'm not confident or I'm not brave in that way. I think that I think at the beginning represents her. He's a very like, I'm not supposed to be here, all this kind of stuff. I think that it correlates a lot with some of the stuff that's going on in his real life scenario. So then at the end, I love that one line. What does he say here? He says, it's whatever he's pushing through. He's already getting chomped on a couple times by the pig, right? And then he screams out, one of his last lines is, "Come on, motherfucker, come on. I beg." Is the vocal cords cracking? It almost seems like he's like push, like he starts to kind of believe in himself at the end of it, is how I read that.
It's him gaining back like the respect for himself that he lost, sort of.
Yeah, he's like, we're already in the fucking thick of it. Just push. Kind of, I love that. It's just a one little line. I think it's great. No, I dare I say this is one of my favorite ones I think we've read. I will say that I think it's a debate in my head that part of him in the pig's mouth might be my favorite thing we've read so far.
Dude, it was so visceral. I can't remember the last time I read something that made me that uncomfortable as I was reading it.
Uncomfortable. The visual is so palpable. It was actually terrifying. The word salad of stuff of descriptions was just
hot pillar
so
crunching
fun.
down on my collarbone. Like, man,
gory, surreal, like body horror, all stuff wrapped in one. That might be my favorite section we've read.
My whole body was
thorough
coated
enjoyment
in slime, and I wept.
It was such a surreal feeling. It was such a surreal feeling to like actually recoil physically in my chair and like cover my mouth of like, oh my God, but then also like crack smiles by like how much fun I was having. It was super sick. Yeah, I think this is great because we were thinking.
So its cheeks pressed in around me, squeezing my body like a soaking, fleshy coffin.
Love that. Love that. Just see all these like little bits of introducing claustrophobia back in, introducing body horror back again, introducing claustrophobia back in.
My wet bone popped from my skin.
What's weird too is it's like you there's so many ways you could say that of like my bones couldn't handle and snapped and pierced my flesh, but no, I just like my wet bone popped. It's just, I don't know why, but that simpler description is so much more impactful. Just
gosh,
I'm glad we read this, man. Yeah, we were planning on reading Stolen Tongues, and then we found out that they had like a it was a story beforehand, and then it got translated to a book.
Is the book, and the creepypasta is called like My Romantic Cabin Getaway or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So we were thinking, okay, do we get the book and then read it?
The author says
on,
the book
on here
that the book's his preferred version, so we could just read the book depending on how long it is.
That's what I said. You know what's weird is people were saying like, oh, you got to read Stolen Tongues. I was looking at the majority of the comments or like reactions to it, and it was mostly negative. So I think that was another reason too. We're like,
Stolen Tongues, the novel, because the author, I saw that one of the replies
better.
was like, yeah, please read Stolen Tongues. It's been through rewrites and stuff like that. So maybe Stolen Tongues is worth reading, you know, compared to the creepypasta.
I think so, or I would hope. Yeah, I think so.
Gosh, man, this was so good. I keep thinking about like, I want to see more of the world. I want to see what the machinery was. I want to see more of the monsters.
What I'm saying.
Because they were all so unique, like the worm man with the nailed teeth and his eyelids peeled back and stuff. And he has scabs over his head because he uses his head to like work his way off the ground. Then the ants that came out of the guy and stuff, like it's so unique. And it's so, honestly, every element of the story works for me. Every time we get to the end of one, I'm like, I liked it, but there's this one thing to change. I really can't think, because the only thing that's like really misplaced is like Danny, but then you find out he was one of the souls. So it's like, how did you go from being where I am to where you're at now, wearing a nice shirt, not bothered by the things around you, knowing what to do? It implies so much that even that criticism is invalid because it makes him such an interesting character for how he got to that point. Like,
it does. And I think also thinking about it more now, it almost makes me think, just roll with me on this. Could Danny possibly be a angel who was kicked out of heaven? And that's why also he's not affected.
Oh, that's a good point.
He's like perpetually.
Yeah, it certainly could be.
Where he's like, oh, I was in your position. I left. And he left that like kind of paradise and now he's here. And that's also this, and that kind of also gives into the fact that maybe he's this guardian angel kind of aspect. Maybe, I don't know. I think it all works. That's why I said my criticism is that I just selfishly wanted more of the world. Also the part of like him jacking off and the ants came out. It's such a like twisted, interesting way to show people's like a world of depravity, like monsters just existing in this kind of like
the nothingness. We made the joke earlier about you being full of grasshoppers. I think if you cut some of these people in half, they would be full of grasshoppers, you know, like I think
so. And it'd be fucking awesome.
Just the
and that would be so
nothingness.
Sick.
Gosh, I want to see more from this. It was so good. And maybe I always say in these stories, like, well, maybe they didn't have to show all of this. They could leave some to imagination. This is why, because right now it left such a perfect level of like, the known and unknown. I have to see more of it. This is where you want a story to end, like frustratingly good, right? Like,
I will be thinking about this story more than probably a lot of the stuff that we've read. There's obviously the classics that we have, but just in terms of imagery and like, especially stuff that I like to draw and whatever else, in my mind, I'm like, oh, cool. This is, I'm going to circle back and be like, oh, that's kind of a cool way. How could I introduce some of these elements into some of the stuff I do, or like these feelings I feel now? How do you kind of capture that in your own way, in your own work? Is, I think, the most powerful part of this story for me. I just had so much fun. So, and also I think it blows Tommy Taffy out of the water by far.
Yeah,
I think it's like
I like Tommy Taffy. This is way better. Yeah.
I think this is the perfect honed in vision of a world of depravity, and especially in a really fun surrealist way of a depiction of hell. But it doesn't just, it's not just a surface level depiction of hell, which is also, I think, why at first, whenever I was doing my little upset baby thing, was that you're like, okay, well, they're just in hell. But to have the creative vision to make it your own is really fun, and not really hark on a lot of the tropes of things, and be able to explore a lot of these ideas is just a lot of fun. I hope people enjoyed it as much as we did.
Bro. I'm scrolling through his subreddit right now. Here's a post he made. Hey everyone, just wanted to drop in and announce my new book, Return to the Black Farm, a direct sequel to The Black Farm. Feed the Pig took off here and got a lot of love, and I owe the community for the existence of both of these books. I hope you'll find this story to read as well, and thanks again. Dude, there is a full Feed the Pig story called The Black Farm and a sequel called Return to the Black Farm.
Okay, well, that's sick.
Bro, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and order them. I'm going to go ahead and order both of them. I'm going to give myself like a week to fully digest Feed the Pig. So it's like, you know, it's like like consecrated. It's like in there. And then I need to see more from the world. Doesn't like, even if it's not as good, that's fine because we have the original story as it existed, but it immediately sold me on the concept, the universe, everything we had in there. So good. Gosh, man. I'm angry. I'm angry at how good
curious.
it was.
Yeah, no, I think that was great, and also just in terms of like creepypasta fans and being able, because I could have seen Feed the Pig, or our viewers probably could have seen Feed the Pig somewhere and maybe not known where that came from, and now it's going to be so cool to be like, oh yeah, you know, you get it,
you immediately know, yeah. Feed the Pig, such a good line too. Like we talked about some of the like the weight that could be applied to it.
Simplicity is king, and that's just like such a simple 3-word line. It's just so good. Yeah, I mean, Feed the Pig, ladies and gentlemen, very, very good stuff. I don't know what we're gonna read next. We usually don't really know until a couple days or a day before. So this is where we're at with it. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them below. As always, too, please do check out the Spotify and the Apple Podcast, all that jazz. It really, really does help us in the back end with just helping the channel, the show, all that jazz. And also realize I don't take it for granted at all. It's I am so grateful for all the people that listen to this shit. I seriously appreciate it. And also am so appreciative of all these fucking awesome stories like Feed the Pig, just being here, and that there's a community of people that are stoked to read them and be a part of it as well. So it's just, it's awesome.
It's ridiculous. You guys really do, like, the fact that me and Hunter just talking about scary stories gets the amount of support it does is ridiculous. Y'all are great.
Yeah. Rest of your day. We will see you next week. Also, Creep TV will be coming up as well shortly. So, you know, check that out if you haven't checked it out. It's just more video stuff versus reading horror stuff. So we have that on our YouTube channel as well as Creep TV. So check it out.
It's only on YouTube for audio listeners. The reason it's only on YouTube is because it's all visual based. Wouldn't make a lot of sense for podcast format. So even if you like listening to this on Spotify and Apple, which we really appreciate, and thank you for all the support over there, come to YouTube if you want to check out Creep TV.
Hugs and kisses, everybody. Goodbye.
Don't let the pig kiss you.